Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Kristen with ISeeStarsQuilting.com. Today we have a really fun tutorial. It is called the Big Easy Quilt Block. You know why it's called the Big Easy? I'm gonna give you 2 reasons why it's called the Big Easy Quilt Block. Ready for this? Here we go. Number 1, it's easy. Number 2, it's really easy to go big on this block without a lot of effort. So what I'm going to show you today is this block right here. This is the finished block. We're going to go through this and make it step by step together. I promise you, if you're a beginner and you're looking at that going, that's a lot of seams, I'm gonna make it easy for you, okay? This is a really fun quilt block. You're gonna love this. Not a lot of skills required here, okay? If you can sew a straight line, you got this, okay? Okay, here I am at my cutting mat here. I have dug through my scrap stash and I have pulled out some beautiful kind of fall themed colors here. I've got some greens and some oranges and some other kind of neutrals that go along with it, plus this like really gorgeous leafy print here. And this is going to be my starting square. This is from another project that I have, but you know what? I like it. It works. So there's no specific instructions here, but I'm going to tell you what I would like to do with this. So I'm going to use my starting square and I am going to place it on top of another piece of scrap fabric that I have. I'm using scrap fabric. If you want to do one in a different fabric, you are more than welcome to. But I am going to start by cutting this. I'm going to lay my start piece right here on top of my other piece, and my other piece is not perfectly square in the corner, so I'm going to start with it a little bit like that, and I'm just going to trim off the excess here, and I want to make them the exact same size. Now this might be a slightly different method than what you are used to in terms of how to start your block, but can I say, trust me on this, okay? So I'm just trimming all 4 sides. They're exactly the same. It's perfectly square. I checked that before I started. And I've got right sides of fabric together, okay? Moved it just a little bit. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to sew on all 4 sides of this. Don't worry about leaving a spot open or on the side or anything. Just sew all the way around using a 1/4 inch seam. Here is my square all sewn up. So it's a little bit hard to see. I used a lighter color thread, but I have just one square all the way around. Inside are together. No gaps. There we go. Next step is we're going to take our wonderful and very trusty friction erasable pen. It erases with heat. I use these all the time. I love them. And I am going to use my ruler. There we go. I zoomed in a little bit so you can see this. I'm just going to take my ruler and I'm going to draw a line from corner to corner. Doesn't matter which side you do right now. Just whatever you want to be the very center of your block and where you want it to start folding out and making the triangles around your block, making new squares. So I want the center of my block to be this black and white stripe one, and then I want the colors to start branching out from there. So see my little X that I drew right there? And then I've got some regular, like, trusty embroidery scissors. Eventually you can get to the point, I started off really small here. Eventually you can get to the point where you can use your regular quilting scissors. But because I started off really small with that square, I am going to use my embroidery scissors to cut this. Now I'm going to pull these 2 sides apart because I don't want my scissors cutting in on my black and white stripes right here, okay? So I've got it pulled apart and I've got this nice and flat where this crease matches up with this one. If you're sitting here wondering what I'm going to do, it's all going to make sense in just a second. I'm going to make a tiny little snip right where these come together. And then I'm going to pull it out a little bit more because now I have my cut in the middle there. And I'm going to cut along my lines till I get to my stitching. Make sure you don't cut your actual stitching on here. You don't want to cut those threads. And you just go around and cut right on your line. Being careful that you are cutting nice and straight and only on the top piece. Now from here, we're going to take it to our ironing station. Got my iron here, ready to go, heated up. I've also brought out my favorite flatter spray. I'm going to have links down below to all of the products that I'm using so you can see exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to give my piece a little spritz here, and I kind of started to open up this little piece. Again, it's small, but it's going to grow fast. It's going to grow big. You're going to love this. So I want to open it up, and I want to iron all of my sides out nice and flat. And obviously when we're working with tiny pieces like this, I do have some extra seams right here on the sides. Okay, so you can see where those are sticking out. I am going to go back to my cutting table and I'm going to slip those right there, get them off. Probably just do it with scissors, not like a big deal, but it will make your seams a little bit less bulky in the end. And we're ready to add on our next layer to our big easy block. Here's all the fabrics that I have to choose from. And what I do want to point out is when you're doing this and you want all of these like triangle pieces to show, you want to do some contrast between the piece you just did and the piece that is going to come out here at an angle. So I might not get as much contrast with this green right here as I would something like this orange, which is also kind of a smaller piece. So I want to use this before I dig into my bigger scraps. Like this one right here is a pretty big chunky scrap, so I'll save that when we get bigger. But actually, let me trim these corners off real quick. And there we go. Perfectly square block again. I am going to take my perfectly square block again, and I am going to put it right sides together on my new piece of fabric. And then I'm going to use my ruler to trim a nice square block. And repeat the process over and over again until we have our final finished square as big as we want it to be. I've got these sewn together, sewn all the way around the edge there. And because this fabric is going to be the one that I unfold out, this is where I'm going to draw my lines. So again, corner to corner. And then I'm going to make a little snip, again making sure that I don't cut the other piece. This is kind of one of those projects that like doesn't require as much brain power as you would think that it would, and you can still be very creative with it and really enjoy what you're doing, which is essentially just working with really pretty fabrics, right? Here we go. It's starting to take shape. Now, obviously, if you're thinking, wow, Kristen, that is going to take a really long time to get to be that big easy block that you were talking about. And the answer is yes. But obviously you don't have to start out with a 2.5 inch square. You could start out with something much bigger. The good thing is your block should be staying fairly square as you're working with it, because you're just using those same diagonal marks. Now, if you do see that things get a little bit off, like I had just a little bit in this corner right here, you can go ahead and trim that down a little bit. It's not, what you want to make sure is that you keep a square piece. You don't want it to start getting really, really wonky on you. Keep it nice and square, and it's going to be your friend. Had a little bit on that side too. And that's okay. Sometimes fabric can stretch a little bit when you iron it. If you have too much heat or you have a little bit of steam to your iron, it can stretch. Next, go sew all 4 of these corners. Obviously, I started with a really, really tiny square. So if you want to see more progress faster and make a really, really big square, start off with like your 5-inch square. However, realize that as you get bigger and bigger, you're gonna have to use some bigger yardage, and maybe your scraps won't be as fulfilling as you had hoped them to be. But if you start off with a little bit bigger square than I did, you will see progress faster. But I kind of like the really, really intricacy pattern of all of the triangles that are coming off of this rotating square, and just giving a lot of color and a lot of texture and a lot of movement with the lines that I've sewn here and the 1/4-inch seams that you can see rotating around that center square. Also, if your square starts looking a little bit wonky, or you're worried about sewing those really, really straight seams, this block is really, really forgiving, because as you sew and then you go back and you trim as you're getting ready to add that next square behind it, go ahead and square up your block each and every time. It'll make it so much easier in the end, and you will get a squared up block. Believe me, all of those little bitty errors are not going to be seen in this ever expanding big easy block. It's very, very forgiving. That is the last step. Here is the final pressed block. It is gorgeous. I love the fall colors. I am feeling the pumpkin spice at this point, even though outside It's still like, I don't know, somewhere in the 90s here, okay? But it just, like, the calendar says September coming really soon. So obviously we're like pumpkin spice level, right? We're getting there. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Go ahead, make your own big easy block. It's something that you can do when you want to make something, but you don't want to put a lot of effort into it. You don't really want to have to use your brain. You don't want to have to learn new skills. You just want to make something that looks intricate and fun. You can obviously repeat this pattern as many times as you want. Make it bigger, make it smaller, change things up a little bit. Just make it fun and enjoy it, okay? You can repeat this over several times and make a huge quilt out of it. You can make just a pillow out of it. This big easy block is meant to be like a foundation level skill, okay? So I'm giving you the tools to do whatever you want with it. Use whatever colors, have fun with it. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. Please make sure that you've hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the video content that I post every single week. I'm sharing all of my tips, tricks, and tutorials with you for modern quilting. Again, I'm Kristen with ISeeStarsQuilting.com. I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Hey, if you are enjoying this tutorial, please make sure you hit the thumbs up button on this video. And if you have any questions or comments or thoughts on this, go ahead and leave them in the comment section below. I answer all of my comments and I would love, love, love to hear from you. One last thing, make sure you subscribe.